This is Power Athlete Radio. With your hosts, Denny K, Professor Booty, and the Luke Summers. And now, toes forward, hips locked, shoulders set, and retract those scapulars. It's time for some knowledge bombs.
Thanks for tuning into Power Athlete Radio. This week, the crew is reunited. After taking a week hiatus from the show, the band is back together to catch up on each other's travels. What was regionals like for the CrossFit Football staff? Our perspective from the booth may be a limited one, but we are fortunate enough to run into old friends, former attendees, and vertical jump sharks every year. What happens when you challenge drunk spectators to 75 power snatches for time? Well, when a free seminar is on the line, shit gets very real. The guys and I talk a bit about the sport of fitness and how it has evolved over time. What about CrossFit has made it more spectator-friendly? Is it the programming, the new equipment, or simply the strategic use of spandex that consistently pulls a larger and larger crowd every year? Remember when there used to be a rule about not wearing white shorts if your name wasn't Stacy Tovar? Of course, we have to take time to speculate on what exactly happened with Julie Fouché. Having watched footage of her bounding box jumps, we can only make educated guesses as to why she suffered an acute and unfortunate injury. Finally, what's on the horizon for Power Athlete HQ and CrossFit Football? With Jack Street in full swing, the Basics recently launched, and the Grindstone soon to go public, Power Athlete is proudly bringing athletes the best programming possible on Train Heroic to fit their individual needs. However, we don't stop there. The education continues with our CrossFit Football seminars all summer long. Listen to find out where we're going and how you can get involved. Without further ado, I give you episode 108.
What's up, Power Athlete Nation? Welcome to another episode of the premier podcast in strength and conditioning, Power Athlete Radio. This is a special edition. We're going to kind of go up the grid on it. Today I'm joined with Tex, Callie, and Levi, and Bobby, and we're going to talk a little CrossFit Regionals, CrossFit Football booth, and possibly the Julie Fouché injury incident. But first of all, how's everybody doing today?
Great.
Doing great.
I'm doing swell.
Swell. Haven't heard that word in a while.
Well, I'm doing both, swell and swole. I'm just holding it down at HQ for Luke and John. They're out today, so I'm sitting in the big man's chair pretending to be cool.
You're swallow.
Yeah, I got swole to sit in John's chair.
All right, guys, let's get things going. First of all, I know that we've been sort of radio silent, no pun intended or pun intended. We took the last week off. Because we've been traveling a tremendous amount, and I know I've been joking with Tex that he is the international man of mystery because he's been all over the grid. He's basically the CrossFit Football
roughneck.
I don't know. What did you call yourself, Tex?
A roughneck.
Roughneck.
So this is just a Texas term. Back when oil was prevalent, gushing all over the country, you had guys that would just travel around. If a well taps, they move on to the next one. So if it's flowing, they're working. I got the flow. I'm working. It's going.
Where has the flow been recently?
Well, I did just get a haircut, but I mean the flow's been in Atlanta. The flow's been in California. I don't usually make my way out there, but I had to for the California Regional, and I had I was going to curse, but I had a freaking great time. Levi.
You can curse. It's okay. So you and Levi, how was the SoCal Regionals?
It was good. I was just going to ask Tex if for his haircut, since he's got the flow, if he was using the Flowbee. Have you guys ever seen that?
Yes.
Yeah, terrible.
The vacuum.
The vacuum haircut. Awesome. Yeah. Regionals was awesome. I had a good time. Me and Tex don't get to spend a lot of time together, and I just, had a great time hanging out with him, picking his brain a little bit, and asking all the important questions. So.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of downtime because, I mean, the vert was popular as always, and we were just a corner booth. So it was just kind of Levi. I got to test his shit-talking ability, and he's almost on Callie's level. He had some good one-liners. I think he might have stolen from Callie, but
That's fucking impossible.
I mean, he was pulling out the Star Wars trivia questions. I thought that was pretty unoriginal. But then he switched to WWE.
Oh, that's brilliant. I haven't heard that one.
It's historical.
That's great. So what were the verts like?
Well, I'll tell you, California can jump a hell of a lot higher than Atlanta. So we had one gym. It was freaking ridiculous. 32 guys had 39.5-inch verts, and then just their boy, who really didn't do any training, just kind of hang out with this crew, got 42.
Wow, were those our repeat jumpers?
Maybe these. I don't know these Cali guys too well.
Right.
So everybody was a new jumper to me.
Gotcha. So anything else notable? I mean, aside, we'll get to the actual regionals, the stuff that people actually care about. But I'm always just curious because I didn't get to do the SoCal one just because I've moved. But there's always some random bullshit. Like, did anyone get super drunk and barf in the middle of the vert?
We had to recruit a couple of Levi's boys to attend the football experience.
Oh, yeah.
So the football experience was Randy with the 6-minute cap, and one of his boys was drinking champagne all freaking morning. And then he did 30 reps in a row. He was going for the gold because it was a free start on the line, and this guy wanted to, and he went for everything in all-out sprint, and he crashed and burned on rep 31.
Wow, was his name Luke Summers? Oh my God, that's classic Summers. Just like going for broke, like 30 reps straight, no feeling of fatigue, and then suddenly it's
drunk on champagne.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. Wow. So how did people take to Randy? I know that when we discussed doing it, it was it was like one of those kind of like taboo things because it's like, well, it's not exactly CrossFit Football, but we did want to pay homage to the actual event that was being used at the regionals. So, like did the guys, like, were they all about it or what?
There were a lot of people that just wanted to get their wad on.
Sure.
So what we did, we took the approach and we applied the individual warm-up that we subscribed on Power Athlete HQ, and a lot of people were sweating. I don't know if it was California heat. I'm used to it, 110 degrees, whatever. But they were sweating. They were rolling around. They're like, this is a terrible workout. And we're like, we're just getting warmed up. Chili's hot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you had the LFL girls helping you out, Chelsea and Amanda, correct?
They did. They were actually modeling all of our new tank tops for us, so that was a great experience,
Yeah.
hanging out with those girls.
Not bad, having a little eye candy at the booth.
Oh, there was eye candy everywhere, Callie. Let's be real. This is spandex capital of the world.
Spandex, I know. It truly is. It's Lycra Central. So how did it compare to Atlanta? I mean, what were you and Bobby's experience like in Atlanta? First of all, y'all had to drive down there from DC, right?
Yeah, we drove down. It was an experience. I mean, it was about a 12-hour drive. I drove from DC out to Reston to scoop up techs so we could then drive to the Dulles airport to scoop up the rental, to go back to his house to load the rental, to then get on the road. So, it was a total shit show from the word go.
Wow, that's an aggressive start. So, I don't think I have done the regionals event down in Atlanta. Were you guys indoors or outdoors down there?
We were indoors, so they had concrete floors for each of these vertical jumps. So every single one just made me cringe, just for the thought of forces and just being a scientist, But it was nice and cool. We didn't have to worry about the heat or the sun. It was almost too comfortable.
Yeah, right. And then what were some standout, like, just experiences there? I mean, did the people in Atlanta know who CrossFit Football was at all?
Some did, some did not. So I definitely, in my experience, had a lot more people come up and say, CrossFit Football, what's that? So it may have been just kind of CrossFit's newer down there than it is in California, and Jay Welly's not as much of a presence as it is in SoCal. So that could have been it, or these guys were, I love the accents, but I don't know if they were experienced strength and conditioning people, the people that are asking us. their form did not follow their function. So that's truly why I don't think they knew.
Yeah. Okay. I gotcha. Yeah. I think that's one of the more trying aspects of the regionals events is the number of times I hear people say, "Oh, I've never heard of CrossFit Football," and it's like you hear that one time and you're like, "Okay, like I'm prepared mentally and physically to educate this person," and then you hear it so many times and then you just get beat down, and before you know it, you're just sort of like rocking back and forth in a chair, and you're like, "How did these people not know about CrossFit Football?" And my experience in the West Regionals this past weekend was in Tacoma, was when I initially showed up to set up the booth, the chick walking around kind of helping people find their locations approached me with our packet of information, and she just said, who are you guys with? And I told her CrossFit Football, and she says, "Oh, okay, yeah, I was wondering who you guys were," and I said, "Yep, that's us," and she said, So are you guys an apparel company?" And I thought to myself, maybe she's joking because clearly, like, we're apparel whores, which is totally fine. But then I realized that she legitimately thought that we were just like another, like junk brands or like another one of those like t-shirt slinging companies. And I was like, actually, no, we're one of the specialty seminars for CrossFit, and she had no idea, never heard of it, and come to find out she was running the entire West Regionals event, and I just figured that maybe she, of any of the people there, might have an understanding of who we were, but that's no big deal. I was happy to educate her. Now she knows exactly. But yeah, we weren't able to source a Vertec for the West Regionals, so unfortunately I had to rock the broad jump again on concrete floor, and so it was a little dicey. I have to say there was minimal participation in that, just because when you have the Vertec, it's kind of like, it's like this beacon, right? It's like this really tall thing that people can see from all angles, and it sort of brings people in, and it draws a lot of attention. But the broad jump, not so much. It's way less sexy. So moving forward, I'm definitely going to have to get a Vertec next time we do the West Regionals. But, we had a lot of engagement from people, a lot of people who follow the program in and around this area. We've always had good turnout when we had our competitions, Occupy Strength and the team series up here. So a lot of people stopping by just to kind of thank us for the program. And then obviously the extreme opposite is just like people who never heard of us. So
yeah, I definitely Bobby and I ran into a lot of alums from certs, so that was cool. Just kind of shake hands, catch up, see what's going on. But in California, that's not my region, so a lot of people were kind of asking where Callie and Luke were.
Right.
I told them like they're on assignment. Luke was in Vegas on assignment.
Speaking of on assignment, I'm sorry to cut you off, Tex. Did you guys have a seminar recently? I'm so out of the loop. Did you?
You know what? I can't even recall.
So what did you do the weekend before Atlanta?
I live one weekend at a time, Kevin.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you gonna say?
Just that. So I was getting a lot of people that are complimenting the podcast.
Oh.
That's kind of our content, our articles. So they were looking for Callie and Luke. They didn't find them, so then they went to the next best thing, which is Power Athlete Radio, naturally, and the articles. So that was kind of cool to see people that were connecting. And I had 3 people say, "Well, I thought you'd be taller."
They did not.
Yes, they did.
You had 3 people ask you if you
California.
thought that you would be taller?
California, man.
You just sound tall on Power Athlete Radio? No, he sounds tall on the radio.
The knowledge that I'm dropping in the articles, that just of a tall man, I guess.
That I would. I hear Tom Cruise gets that all the time, and he's like a babe. He's like a rock star, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is Tex brings up a good point. Is one thing that I did notice is there was a lot of athletes walking around after they competed, and I noticed that like the competitive men and the competitive women were almost the same height. So I mean, this may have been addressed before, but just that optimal height / weight for CrossFit.
Yes.
I mean, the chicks were probably 5'6" to 5'8".
5'7" max.
Yeah, and the dudes like walking around. I had a double take, the whole weekend realizing that these guys aren't very tall, and they seem big because it's like the NBA. Everyone looks the same height, but when you see an NBA player in real life, they look like a giant. And
Right.
It's the same thing except the Converse here. So that was an interesting thing that I noticed.
Yeah, very astute observation, Levi. I always, my eye, I mean, no offense, but my eye is rarely drawn to the shorter statured athletes of the male kind, and so I never really pay that much attention. But yeah, that's a great point. We know that there's an ideal height body type, and it's just that compact gymnast-esque body. So very interesting. Tex, I'm not sure what your last seminar was, but mine was in Spain, in Madrid, with John. And again, we were kind of off the grid for, I think, 5 or 6 days, and then me even a couple days after. If anyone did come to this Tacoma regional event, there was a 50-50 chance you were going to get barfed on, because I was highly ill all weekend, and I think I got something in Madrid, but when I came back. But we had a fantastic seminar of, over 40 people. And, I know that a lot of those guys, the ones who do speak English, listen to the podcast. So, a shout out to them for attending the seminar and being engaged and listening, especially if you speak English. You have to hear what I say twice, straight from my mouth and then through the interpreter. So a lot of patience for that seminar. And Tex, you've done a lot of international seminars too, and I know you've worked with a translator, so it's it's a very draining experience from both ends, I'm sure.
Yeah, and the most interesting part about all that is if you drop a line, you say a joke or something, nobody laughs. And
right.
Then you turn and look at your interpreter, 1, 2, 3 lines later. In John's case, 5 minutes later, the interpreter gets to the joke, and then the whole room blows up.
Yeah, that part is pretty validating, because you're used to your standard comedic timing, and none of that really it all goes out the window when you're, and also the sense of humor can be different when you're overseas. And luckily the Madrid crew had a pretty good sense of humor. They didn't seem to mind the fact that I cursed. I submit that my interpreter was not interpreting all of my curse words, which is fine. He's taking professional liberty with that. But yeah, ultimately, awesome. We got to see a bullfight, which I've never seen before. I have to say, it pulled at my heartstrings a little bit, because ultimately they're just trying to kill the bull, as it turns out, and they do that by any means necessary at the end. They'll get 5 bull wranglers, whatever you call them, bullfighters, and they'll just basically stab the bull until it bleeds and passes out, which is really hard to watch the first one. And then you get really used to it, and then you're like, oh, this is pretty badass. So there's 5 or 6 bullfights. And another interesting thing is that you can't go into the ring or the arena while a bullfight is going on. So you have to wait sort of in the back hallways before they'll let you in, as if it might distract the bull somehow, it's like a tennis match or something really quiet. And and so there is that kind of old school respect aspect to it. But they're the demographic of people who go to these things are very hoity-toity, old school, very few young people, because I think
not like NASCAR.
Right. It's not at all like NASCAR. I think it's actually on the outs, because of animal rights activists and just people in general are leaning towards sports that don't end up killing things by the end of it. But overall, good experience. Drank a lot of wine, had a lot of cheese and other goodies and stuff. But it was a good trip. So let's talk a little bit about some of the performances at regionals. I wish I had Ben Taylor here. Ben Taylor helped me out in the Tacoma regionals big time. Not only just his physical presence and helping me with selling shirts and talking to people about CrossFit Football, but he also knows what the fuck is going on in CrossFit. He knows what the various athletes are up to, who's injured, who's got the best time and what, and so he was able to kind of keep me up and who the good athletes are in our regional event. Definitely, like, Lucas Parker was one of those kind of standout athletes. I think he's from Canada, but I was just curious if you guys got to witness any of the main regional kind of highlight events, or if there was any standout performances.
Unfortunately, the only team I was able to siege out the event was just CrossFit DC, just because they're close friends. But just kind of following the standings throughout the Atlantic was interesting, because I mean, we got old school Christy Phillips, Christy Adkins, who was competing in the Atlantic Regional, and then those of you from the Mid-Atlantic know she's been just crushing it since the dawn. So it was interesting to follow her, and she had a unique experience as an athlete in that she found out for sure that every rep truly counts. She missed one snatch, and that was just enough to exclude her from her first ever CrossFit Games, so that she's not going. So just kind of follow her. Yes, I know. So big news in there. And the females, I believe everyone from the Atlantic Regional is from Florida. So the merger, the super regional combo with Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast, the women from Florida swept it. So it's kind of interesting now. Mid-Atlantic has no women represented, even though they've been so strong, for so long.
Well, do you think part of that is due to like some of the women from the Mid-Atlantic have moved, right? Gretchen is relocated, right? And so is Jen Jones. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, Jen Jones went down to Texas, but Gretchen was competing at this regional.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So the chicks that did make it then, were any of those the ones that had attended our seminar down there?
Unfortunately, no. Lauren Brooks, she had to bow out, I believe, day 1 or 2 from competition because of a pre-existing injury.
Mm-hmm.
And then Fortunato, she was just kind of hanging out, so we were able to take a selfie with her. So it's on her Instagram. Go ahead and check it out, Bobby and I. But other than that, no one we've been able to connect with. But one of Playtex girls, Cassidy Lance, from Miami Surge, is moving on, and she, Bobby, what do you call him?
Her PT.
Yeah. Her PT was just hanging out in the back corner with us, because that's where our booth was. So we had a fortune enough to kind of have some great conversations with him, just about his preparation and working with her.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. So she'll travel with that PT, I assume, to the games and stuff. I mean, what is his role? Does he have several athletes, or does he just work with her exclusively?
He was there specifically just to work with her, and we had been talking a little bit after we had kind of wrapped things up, and he said that he hopes to travel with her again to California. I have some of the high level competitive exercisers do kind of have a cadre. They have like a whole bandwagon of sponsors and PTs who are gonna, just go with them to competitions. My buddy, Callie, do you remember Keith Crawley?
Yes, of course.
The PT from, so he's a really good friend of ours from up in Boston. He's a PT, and he's traveling out to the games because he's going to be working on a bunch of the Reebok One athletes from up in Boston.
Wow.
So they just send him out wherever they need to go, and Cassidy did the same thing with this PT. It was fantastic.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, I hope to run into him there. He was such a nice guy, a cool guy, and obviously super smart. And I fucking love the word cadre. I totally forgot that word existed, and I'm going to be using that.
Boom.
Levi, I know that you follow a bit of CrossFit too. You're a low to moderate fanboy of CrossFit. Can you remember anything from the SoCal event that was noteworthy? Did you get a chance to watch anything from the sideline?
Not too much. I mean, China did make it through, which is awesome.
Yeah.
She's one of the OGs with us. I got to hang out with Freddie for a little while after day 2, I believe it was, and he's actually going to be competing with the Masters.
Yeah.
So they both get to compete in the games this year simultaneously, which I know for them is very exciting. They work really hard, and so that was cool to kind of shoot the breeze with them and catch up. So
yeah, they're super cool. I'm so excited for them. it's just like you love when a plan comes together. That's awesome.
100%.
Levi
So
left me in the trenches. Goes to hang out with Freddie and didn't even tell me.
Yeah, that's how I do it.
After an hour, he comes back and he's like, "Oh man, Freddie's such a great guy." I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Well, it's true. He is a great guy. He looks badass too. My God. Yeah. And he never ages. Like, I don't understand I've seen him for like years now, and he's Benjamin Button. I don't get it.
I do have a great Freddie C story. So at my first ever CrossFit Football cert, I think it was the 5th all time. It was in Oakland, California. Mm-hmm. And Freddie C, Rob Wolf, all these guys were in attendance. I had no freaking idea who any of these guys were. And they're all buddy with John. And so back then we did the 225 bench press test for all the attendees. There was like 40 in attendance. And so Freddie sees the first one up, and as somebody else loads the bar, Freddie lays down in the bench press. He knocks out like 14 reps, racks it, and he's like, these plates are uneven. Someone had put a 25 kg plate on one side of it, and he just still repped out 14 like it was even, nothing.
Wow, what a jumboke putting a 25-pound or 25-kilo plate. That's funny. How's China looking? If I were gonna pick one female body to somehow inhabit and have as my own, it would be China's body. It's the most banging physique I've ever seen. And I'm sure, like, I've seen her go through a lot of phases though. So she went from like super lean for a while, like almost like too lean, and now last time I saw her, I think it was last year, it looks like she had put on some muscle. Is she like looking pretty jacked this year, you guys?
Yeah, and she was another person that I didn't realize how tall she was.
Yeah.
Definitely makes sense after, having a swim background. You could tell that she would be a good swimmer. But yeah, she looks good. She looks ready to go, that's for sure.
Yeah.
She looks strong from what I got to see, and she looked ready to go. So
awesome.
Yeah, she definitely looked comfortable in her own skin. Because I know we've seen kind of an evolution of her as an athlete, and when she put on weight, she had to work through some injuries and recover from that. So I think she finally found her playing weight and is just crushing it.
Yeah, she certainly is. Yeah, she looked like you said. She does. I've watched some videos of her recently, and she looks more comfortable. And I think she gained a lot of confidence last year, which is obviously that we know that is just, it gives you like leaps and bounds going into any subsequent competition. Let's just like touch on the Julie Fouché incident. I know before the show we were watching some videos. It was hard to kind of source a good video of the actual the onset of the injury, which was during some box jumps or box overs, and we were just just out of the fucking like the masses, we're interested to see how it happened and kind of pontificate on like possible, like, was this accumulation of volume that put her in a bad position, or was she just in a bad position, and I don't think there's been any like public, like, okay, here's the exact diagnosis, but I think it's pretty obvious that this was like an Achilles strain or injury. I guess, Tex, were you able to glean anything from the video that you might have, seen any issues with posture or position?
Well, just she's catching in that plantar flex foot, just kind of leisurely hopping off the box. So if you're not landing in dorsiflexion and truly going to power out of the bottom, that is a bad idea. So she should have been stepping down or just getting box overs. That is a long workout. And so, I mean, she might have cost her 15 seconds to step down throughout that whole process, but at the end of the day, she would have been still competing. So just taking a look at the whole weekend, and when you know that it only takes one rep to get injured, there was still a lot of build up for that moment. So day one, it was rope climbs, so definitely some falling, and it might have been built up there, and then into a treadmill run, and then a lot of double unders. So,
yeah, the crazy thing is that she looks absolutely shocked by the incident, and I was going to ask you, Bobby, because you've worked with tons and tons of different athletes and CrossFitters and strongmen and fighters and all sorts of different athletes. Have you ever seen someone suffer an Achilles injury?
I have never personally witnessed an Achilles injury, and
that's great.
I'm pretty thankful for that too. But you know what? Her reaction is consistent with other people I know who have had Achilles injuries, where they literally think someone hit them from behind or tripped them or kicked them in the back of their leg. Or I watched a short clip of a video where Julie actually said she thought a barbell had rolled into her leg. So she was just shocked and stunned. You know, it's typically not something where you're like, oh yeah, my Achilles is feeling sore.
Yeah. It looks like it's just like that instantaneous, like, episode that just comes from nowhere. Well, yeah. I'm sure y'all can sort of have the same sentiment that I do, which is, everybody wishes her a speedy recovery. She's such an amazing athlete, and just
you never want to see that happen to anybody, because that's going to be a 10 to 12 month recovery, and from there, who knows? I think she said she's going to step down. So wish her the best of luck in recovery. But just kind of one thing, there's been a lot of articles on the internet out there. It's like, well, get rid of box jumps or no bounding. That's not going to happen.
Right. It's not going to happen. And the one thing too is that you can look at the competition itself and you can say, okay, so let's look at this competition and determine what led to this injury. But what people don't know is the individual training that goes up into this point, the accumulation of hundreds of thousands of reps, the 2 and 3 days that go into preparing for something like this, and the body it creates this history and this it creates almost like this bank account full of reps, and it doesn't just become completely recovered before a competition like this. And so you can't just isolate the incident and say, okay, this is purely a reflection of the programming or her position in the movement. There's a lot behind the scenes that people aren't seeing.
Absolutely. So, and you can't get mad at her. You can't get mad at the games being programmed that way. It's just an unfortunate incident, and it needs to be a big picture approach if this is going to stop happening. So coaches need to look at how are their athletes landing now, because I don't care if it's freaking Sunday morning class with a bunch of moms or a regionals level games competitor. They need to be landing in that dorsiflexion, and if they are truly going to bound, they need to demonstrate a level to even just catch a single jump in a proper position.
Right. Absolutely. Yep. It's just due diligence. Good coaching. Well, let's talk a little bit about just kind of the evolution of the games briefly. I mean, we always see changes every year, and as far as I know, they haven't released any of like the game stuff. They do that maybe 3 weeks ahead of time. Is that accurate, guys?
With always a surprise or two.
Yeah. So they'll leave a couple open-ended workouts, kind of unbeknownst to the competitors. But have you guys seen anything that you found to be like changes? I don't know whether it made it more spectator friendly or kind of unique workouts. Did anyone take anything noteworthy away from the regionals?
I like the team aspect instead of just hey, this is set amount of reps. Like teams got to hit it, or each athlete has to do this many or that many. They made them work together. So it was the partner hold deadlift, partner deadlifts, the synchronized chest to bar pull-ups. So as weird or stupid as you may think those are, at the same time, two athletes have to communicate. They're a male and a female. They're different strengths and levels, and they have to synchronize with the other one, which is incredibly challenging. So I thought that was incredibly unique, that you just got a different approach. So we'll see how that evolves into the games.
I would say that as random as it may seem to maybe an outsider, it definitely seems like they put a lot more thought into the programming. Just from, I know the first couple of games, they would literally put movements into a hopper and spin it around, pull them out, and that's what they were doing. So, as random as it seems, I think there is a method to the madness, and they're just finding a way to challenge them a little bit more each year, just because it seems like it gets a little bit harder each year. Throwing in those secrets that they don't release early on.
Yeah, I think they're doing other things too, just like, and it's not just exclusive to this year, but they are making it more sort of like spectator friendly in the aspect where you can see where people are throughout the workout, right? So they have them like moving the quote unquote chess pieces, and so that the spectators in the crowd from an elevated point of view can get an idea of where the fuck people are in the workouts, right? You don't know what round they're on if they're not moving this like chess piece to indicate, at what point in the workout that they're currently on. So, I mean, that part's pretty handy, I think.
I will jump on that, and that what I did when I saw 1 mile run programmed, and without looking any further into it, I was like, yes. Because in the Olympics, that race, it's neck and neck, and you're seeing them compete. I personally did not like how it was on a treadmill, because then I can't see it,
Right.
If they put a track around the arena, and then the last 100 yards, it's a freaking dead-on sprint foot race to get to the barbell, that would have been something I would have, been jacked up for.
And they sort of, I totally get that, and it's obvious that the reason it was on a treadmill is because there's sponsors involved and all that stuff, and it's also the reason that it was at the beginning of the workout, because imagine if they had that race at the end and nobody knew where the fuck people were within their, and it's just an announcer kind of indicating sporadically like where people were. That would totally change the excitement of the event. And so unless they're able to broadcast that up onto a big screen, which I'm sure that the technology does not exist for that to happen, then that would get super exciting. Could you imagine people on those free runners just fucking booking it at the end? Oh my God, that'd be so great.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the games, because the games kind of, you run into the stadium and a barbell's waiting there, so there's like 2 crowds cheering. That's just what I was thinking about.
Yeah, I got
my experience there, I thought it was cool.
Yeah. How about you, Bobby? Did you think any pros, cons, any changes that were good or bad?
Well, I mean, obviously the most obvious change was having, for me personally, worked at the Mid-Atlantic Regionals, now having this super regional. We were exposed to so many different athletes that we typically don't get to see, right? Because a lot of these great regional competitors who are, great competitive exercisers don't make it to the games. And so the level of competition at the Atlantic Super Regional was much different. A lot of case in point, some of these very classic, great athletes from the Mid-Atlantic didn't make it, right?
Yeah.
They got bummed out because the level of competition was different. But I will say this, when we were inside the venue, the way the Atlantic Regional was set up, they had all of the spectators kind of packed into one spot. And because we were indoors, it became so loud. It was like Mad Max at the fucking Thunderdome, man. You couldn't hear anything in there. It was borderline deafening. And so there were parts there where the crowd was so excited to watch these athletes compete. Last couple reps in the hot heats, it was totally bananas. So from that perspective, I think the venue was, when you're actually sitting inside the venue from a spectator's perspective, was much better.
Yeah, and I don't know how, but there are little changes like that, and I don't know if they're choosing the venues differently or whatever, but I have to agree. The same thing with the West Regionals. There were times where it was just like so thunderous that you could like feel your body vibrating, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on behind that curtain, but it's something epic is going down. And one of the things that I did, just like a minor point that I kind of liked about the programming and stuff, is they used strict handstand push-ups this year, and I thought that was pretty badass. It's just like a minor thing that I saw that I was just like, okay, because I think in our general population, when we go to any average gym, I mean, people are very prone to want to go for the kipping everything straight out the gate, because that's what the competitors do for time. Well, when you change the competition and you force more strength movements like strict handstand push-ups, it might start to trickle down into the mindset of those new members and kind of get them thinking like, okay, even if I do want to put myself in the shoes of a competitor, not all competitions are going to allow kipping everything. And so it'd be just badass to see things like strict pull-ups and strict handstand push-ups and even weighted pull-ups, that don't allow any hip flexion or anything like that at the actual games this year. I would be so stoked. I know that we did that for PAX. We did weighted pull-ups, and I think that those things, but kind of like a back to basics, and just there are other ways to make the competition harder besides just more reps, and CrossFit knows that, right? But there's just like I said, in terms of that trickle down effect to our general population and everybody wanting to be the next Froning, it's a much more realistic way to get to that end game because we're really laying a strength foundation.
So you're talking about more seesaw walks, right?
Any opportunity for you to throw in a warm-up suggestion.
Yeah. If the games were up to me, there are two things I would do. I would add IT band slow twisting kicks.
Oh my God!
And
how do you quantify that?
I'm just putting this so I can win the CrossFit Games.
Okay.
Yeah, because there are about 5 people on Earth who can do them.
Texas is one of them. I might be one of them.
3 of them are on the podcast right now.
Right.
Second one would be flood the freaking tennis courts and then have people lunge through 1 foot deep of water.
Yeah. Gosh, how do you judge if the knee is touching the ground?
Well, at that point, it's just I don't know.
It's just running against water is basically what you're saying.
I'm not thinking here. I'm just throwing scenarios out there, hoping Castro listens, and then it just, I start a revolution.
Yeah, so it's you guys, let's hear some predictions. What are some predictions or things that you'd like to see? Anything? There's going to be some swimming events.
3-legged race. 3-legged swimming.
I'd like to see treading water with a weighted vest and a brick overhead.
So drown proofing?
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know. Yeah. I'd like to see I always like in terms of the team stuff, because the team stuff is really fun to watch. I like to see people having to carry their partner and do crazy shit with their partner. I really like that when it's almost like
nose to nose buddy carries.
Yes. Sounds sexual. I don't know. Levi, Bobby, you guys got any ideas?
Yeah, just going along with the last podcast or one of the previous ones that you had with Rob Orlando and Logan, just maybe some strongman stuff in there. I always like to see that kind of thing. It seems like they have the gymnastics stuff covered pretty well. Minus a routine, but yeah, something like that would be interesting for me. I'm pretty basic, so I don't need a lot of lunging through water.
Yeah.
But, just that kind of stuff is entertaining to me. Something different than just a ton of the same thing, a ton of the same reps. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love odd object strongman stuff. I mean, how cool would it be to see team Atlas Stones, something really crazy, I think that more of it is coming. I don't know if we'll see any strongman stuff in the games. I really hope we do, but yeah, the more grip intensive, the better.
Yeah.
What about phone book rips? If you can't rip it, sorry, you're out.
You're gone. You gone.
Oh my God. That'd be me. I'd be fucking gone in a second. I'd ask for one of those tiny phone books.
But no, it would be the grippers. So you got to close.
Yeah, just close Captains of Crush grippers. Sorry, you can't. You're a man and you can't close a 3. You're gone.
Oh my God.
But we built it in the deadlift. You know how they the stronger athletes would gravitate towards the heavier deadlifts in that team competition. Well, we just have the grippers.
How about we do
But imagine it on the freaking soccer field and nobody can see anything from the stands. That's what I meant.
Oh my God. What if we do either manual resistance glute ham raise or just a traditional glute ham raise straight into a 40-yard gap?
That would be fantastic.
And if you don't tear your hamstring, you win.
Oh my God, dude! Can you imagine what people?
Well, if you either leave your lane or tear your hamstring, you're out.
Oh my God, dude!
They'd be stumbling all over the place.
Oh my God! Followed by or you have to run straight into water. People would be moving nowhere. I don't know why that's so amusing to me. Well, I know that that they're going to come up with something unique, just like they do every year. And I'm not too butthurt about the equipment being involved, like whether it's assault bike or free run or whatever. It's always a new element. They're going to add something new every year anyway, so it might as well be helping to kind of fund and promote the event. It would obviously if it gets like too weird and like too dicey, then it wouldn't make sense. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the games. And I know that will all of us be present at the CrossFit Football booth?
Oh yeah,
I'll be there.
Tax?
Absolutely. I'm the freaking roughneck.
Are you in California right now? I don't even know if you might be there setting up the booth 2 months in advance. Like, get us a good spot.
I'm actually flooding the stadium now. As we...
Right. Just one Dixie cup at a time. Well, we've got a lot of exciting things coming up. Of course, we'll be at the games, but that's far in advance. We have a lot of seminars coming up that I want to mention. We've got New York this coming weekend, correct? Who's going to that?
Yeah, Tex and I.
Driving up.
The Texan Bobby show.
The road show.
Then we have Seattle the weekend after that, so I'll be doing that. I believe Luke's coming up for that. Then we have Manchester in the UK, followed by Denver, and then Ames, Iowa. So those are, in case you guys are living under a rock, you need to get out and get to one of those certs. We have a couple East Coast ones that we just put up when we went down to the Atlantic, and that's going to be Atlanta September 13th and 14th. And then one I'm excited for, we're going to Muscle Driver, South Kakalaki, and that's just the end of August. South Carolina?
South Carolina. We are going to Muscle Driver. That is going to be absolutely phenomenal.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm jealous. Is that in September as well?
That's going to be last weekend in August.
Oh, in August. Okay.
For the ATL one.
Nice. Cool. Man, so many seminars this summer. I feel like in the summer we don't usually have this many just because we're always working around the games and stuff, but it sounds packed. We're going to have a busy next couple of months. You will have the opportunity to take advantage of a discount if you're going to be at the games. So if any of those locations sound good to you, you'll have the opportunity to sign up for them at the games for a discount. Anything else you guys want to hit on? We're going to go talk with DJ Muscle Boy in just a matter of days, hours, minutes, really. On Thursday, we're going to talk with him. We'll put the show out for that next week. But I'm super stoked for that. If you guys don't know who he is, just Google or YouTube DJ Muscle Boy. Not only is he the world's most muscular DJ, but he is a pretty hilarious guy. He's somebody who doesn't really take himself too seriously and is into strength training, and is definitely also a very controversial figure in his home of Iceland. So.
Yeah, I also want to just put a shout out for the basics program. So I know a lot of people are training out of their garages, independent, and what we've been kind of tailoring the basics on Train Heroic for is high schools. Like, we're doing a bunch of filming of some partner workouts so they don't have to be done solo, that you can implement in a gym, a high school gym with a team. So we're just kind of tailoring that program towards kind of a team training program for getting kids on a program we know works and it's consistent from the ground up, and then with that long-term life cycle of an athlete in there, that you don't need chains or bands or anything, just the shit that works.
It's only been up for about a week, maybe.
Yeah. Luke's kicked it off with a high school in California, and then I'm starting one with a DC on Monday. So we're programming and just building that thing out, and it's going to be awesome.
Before we get going, I do have a shout out as well. We are going to be doing a seminar out here in Southern California, and it will be at the headquarters of Power Athlete. So you guys get to see where the butter is churned and the bread is made, or however you say that. So be on the lookout for that to come out as well.
Do you know what month Luke was thinking about doing that, Levi?
It should be in August.
Okay.
So it'll be before all of you coaches. I know we had some interest with high school football coaches, and it'll be before your season and before you go too deep into that. So you should be able to attend that. In addition, we also have released Grindstone. So for all of you who don't have the time to follow the programming of Field Strong, of Jack Street, but you love the narratives, you love what we do here, that is also released, and that is a optimal training for those of you that are working professionals.
For working mothers. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Working motherfuckers.
Working motherfuckers. That's awesome, and I know that plenty of people will be excited to make it to the Mecca, aka Power Athlete HQ. Hopefully there'll be like a combine bench press test to see who gets to take my desk. Maybe someone can just start working there. Levi, have you taken my desk? Are you now like that's your home and your corner?
My dirty shoes are on your desk.
That's fucking disrespectful. Oh my God.
I had to raise the desk up because it was so short, though.
I'll allow it. All right, guys, let's wrap this up. Thank you so much. I'm glad that we got to recap all this stuff, and I will see you at the games for sure.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. See you guys. Bye.
Now it's time for you to empower your performance. For more information on the CrossFit Football seminars, head to crossfitfootball.com/events. We are all over the world through the end of the year, so take a look at the dates and locations and make it to the seminar closest to you, period. If you haven't visited Train Heroic for access to Power Athlete's amazing programming templates like Field Strong, Jack Street, and the Basics, you are missing out on a comprehensive strength and conditioning system that can literally change your game, be it on-field performance, be it aesthetics for picking up bros or broettes, or just simply surviving the day-to-day struggle that is life. As you know, there's a lot of noise out there, and all we're trying to do is bring you the sweet, sweet music. The stuff that actually makes sense and gets the job done. Don't forget to tune in to episode 109 when we welcome Gilles Einerson, aka DJ Muscle Boy, aka the self-proclaimed world's most muscular DJ. He has the charisma and confidence of a young Arnold and certainly the ambition to do something with it. So look forward to that episode next week. Until then, bye!